From a woman who killed and ate a waitress, to the woman who strangled over 30 elderly women. The women you're about to see here are real-life killing machines. You mess with them at your own risk. First though, let's begin with this Italian mob boss who left hundreds dead. Number 10. Maria Licciardi. Maria Licciardi is one of the most powerful female mob bosses in history, probably because she was brought up as the daughter of a mafia boss in Italy. As you can tell, she had a lot to learn in terms of running a crime syndicate, and sure enough, that's exactly what the now 71-year-old ended up doing in her entire life. She rose to power at a young age as the head of the Licciardi Camorra crime syndicate clan, taking over for her brothers and husband following their arrests. Maria Licciardi would then become one of the most powerful female mob bosses in history, ruling the city of Naples from 1993 until she was first arrested in 2001 following a roadblock that was mounted in Naples to nab her. At the time, Maria was placed among Italy's top 30 wanted fugitives. But how did this syndicate survive? Well, Maria would hire a team with whom she used to engage in illegal activities to raise revenue for the syndicate. Some of the illicit revenue for the syndicate include the extortion of local business owners, infiltration of public works contracts, and drug trafficking. Hundreds have died under her reign. Now, although she was released from prison in 2009, she continued running her syndicate. But this would come to a stop when she was finally arrested in October 2021 at Rome's Ciampino airport, being accused of mafia association, extortion, and receiving stolen money. Number 9. Natalia Bakshiva. Could you eat human flesh? Well, it seems some people find human flesh just as sweet as any other meat, and Natalia Bakshiva, a native of Russia, is just one of them. She was a famous criminal due to her cannibalistic acts. She would not only kill you, but would go ahead and eat your flesh. Sounds bizarre to say the least. But you'd be surprised to hear that she was arrested and charged with the allegation of eating about 30 people. However, Natalia Bakshiva was convicted of one mysterious murder: the 2017 killing and butchering of 35-year-old waitress Elena Vashrusheva. In fact, when investigators busted her in their home, they discovered the sliced body parts of the waitress in the fridge and some in a frying pan in the cooker. She is said to have committed the crime with the aid of her husband, but she played an active part in the murder. Nicknamed the Devil, Natalia was sentenced to 12 years in prison, but died in jail after her appeal was rejected. Why she did what she did still remains a mystery, but honestly, Natalia Bakshiva must have been a dangerous murder. You kill and clear the evidence by consuming the remains. I've never seen that. Number 8. Amelia Dyer. When you talk of the most prolific murderers in the history of England, there's one name that we'll never miss, and that is Amelia Dyer. Amelia Dyer, a nurse by profession who lived between 1837 and 1896, chose to do the exact opposite of her career by deciding to be a baby farmer. Basically, baby farming is an old Victorian English practice that involved adopting unwanted children from desperate single mothers. But instead of taking care of the adopted children, Amelia Dyer would instead end their lives in a gruesome manner. Some being fed opium syrup, others starved to death, and others being killed and thrown in a nearby river. And even though nobody knew what was happening, one doctor became suspicious of the number of children dying under her care. As a result, Amelia Dyer was arrested and charged with neglect and given 6 months of hard labor. But even after serving the sentence, she returned to her job and continued her gruesome acts. It wasn't until 1896 that authorities finally busted her. After discovering one body of a baby in the River Thames, detectives would later unravel the crimes of Amelia Dyer. They were shocked to discover even more bodies in the river, and it all became clear what she was doing to the children she adopted. Amelia was hung for the murders she committed, bringing to an end the 19th century's most notorious child killer. It's believed she murdered about 400 children. Number 7. Sidney Whitaker. Crime doesn't know age, and indeed Sidney Whitaker is featured on this list as the youngest murderer. It seems she must have mastered the art of the dark world in her childhood, because at the age of 18 years, Sidney Whitaker was already one of the most dangerous murderers in her local area in Texas, or let's just say in the whole world. Sidney was charged with murder following her dubious plot that resulted in the death of 21-year-old Adrian Wells at a North Dallas apartment complex back in May 2021. Working in a syndicate of 3 other men, Sidney enticed Adrian to his death on a promise of sex. The 3 men not only robbed Adrian at gunpoint, but also shot him to death. Even though she didn't technically kill the victim, Sidney was charged with facilitating the home invasion robbery that resulted in the death of Adrian, leaving his friend with injuries. According to the police, Sidney might have been the orchestrator for the whole operation. Number 6. Estebaris Carranza. Estebaris Carranza, popularly known as the Ice Cream Killer, is a Mexican-born Spanish national who is convicted of killing her husband and boyfriend. Carranza, who operated an ice cream parlor in Austria, looked charming on the outside, but deep inside she was a cold-blooded woman hungry for any man's blood. In 2008, Carranza killed her then ex-husband, and 2 years later she shot her boyfriend in the back of the head, causing his death. All remained top secret until 2011, when construction workers bumped into the corpses in the basement. Carranza tried escaping, but she was later nabbed and charged with murder. Number 5. Darlene Gentry. Darlene Gentry was the true definition of a Texas beauty queen. She could have any man she wanted thanks to her good looks, but behind her gorgeous looks laid the heart of a murderer. Darlene Gentry married her college sweetheart Keith in 1999. The couple moved in together and started living next door to Keith's parents in Robinson, Texas. Keith would continue with his job as an electrical engineer while Darlene made a living as a nurse. Their marriage looked kinda perfect, and as the years went by, they managed to have 3 children. But suddenly, their marriage hit a rough patch. She reported the incident through an emergency call, and when the investigation began, she denied being involved, blaming Keith's murder on intruders. But as the investigation intensified, it turned out that Darlene was the one who shot Keith, with the motive to collect his $750,000 life insurance policy. Number 4. Marie Manning. When we talk of women and crime, you might want to think it's more of a modern topic, but you'd be surprised that these things started happening long ago before you were born. Back in the early 19th century, a Swiss maid named Marie Manning and her husband were convicted of murdering Marie's lover, Patrick O'Connor. The controversial case that was dubbed the Bermondsey Horror started after Marie's lover was invited to a family dinner in her house in August 1849. However, the dinner would turn out to be his last day. Immediately after Patrick sat down, he was shot in the back of the head, and his body was buried in the couple's kitchen. Marie would then collect Patrick's properties and escape with them. As the investigation into the murder continued, Marie was arrested together with her husband, and the couple was hung in public in November of 1849 for their heinous act. Number 3. Hama Hinder Sangara. Love comes with jealousy and desperation, and you may find yourself doing things that are far beyond human understanding. Hama Hinder Sangara is a case in point. Sangara, also known as Mindy, was in a relationship with Sana's husband, unaware that he was married and expecting a child. But the moment she found out, she could not spare a chance. She decided to take revenge against the 17-year-old Sana who was expecting. Surprisingly, she denied all the charges before the court, and there was no evidence linking her to the murder. However, the court was convinced she was involved and gave her a life sentence. Number 2. Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias, an aspiring photographer and waitress, looks so gorgeous enough to get you to believe she is immune to any criminal acts. But they say don't judge a book by its cover for a reason, and maybe we need to dive deeper to get to know this lady well. Back in 2006, Jodi Arias met a popular motivational speaker, Travis Alexander, and the two started dating in 2007. But before they could even date for very long, Travis's friends noticed the relationship was becoming volatile, and so they warned him. But Travis would not listen to any of the warnings. Eventually, he was found dead. Arias told the authorities that masked intruders attacked them and forced her out before killing Travis. Well, the police would later do their part and eventually found out that Arias was responsible for the death of Travis. She was sentenced to life, and to date, nobody knows why she committed the murder. Number 1. Juana Barraza. 64-year-old Juana Barraza was a Mexican wrestler who turned into a serial killer, but with a special interest in the elderly. Dubbed the Mata Viejitas, or Little Old Lady Killer, Juana Barraza is alleged to have killed over 30 elderly women. Her father was a police officer, and her mother was an alcoholic prostitute. So probably the rough childhood she went through could be the reason she committed all the heinous acts against old women. After starring in the ring as a wrestler for about a decade after the name of La Dama del Silencio, or the Lady of Silence, she decided to ditch the sport and engage in crimes. In 1995, she fully started living a criminal life, beginning with minor stealing, followed by burglary, and eventually robbing elderly women. It was from there that she graduated to murder in 2002, killing old women for fun. It wasn't until 2003 that police became suspicious after so many old people were found killed by strangulation. She was eventually nabbed after she was spotted leaving a home of a murder victim. Juana Barraza was convicted of 30 murders and found guilty of 16 and sentenced to 759 years in prison. Thanks for watching.